Have you ever stepped into a warm morning shower, thinking it would ease your joints and help you wake up only to feel a little dizzy, a bit unsteady, or suddenly short of breath? For people over 60, this quiet, familiar habit can carry hidden risks that most never see coming. I've treated stroke patients, fainting episodes, and brain bleeds that had nothing to do with smoking or diet, but started right there in the bathroom. The simple act of showering, especially in the early morning, can trigger a sharp spike in blood pressure, restrict blood flow, or even cause a dangerous drop that leaves the brain vulnerable. It's not just the heat. It's how fast you stand, how long you stay under, and how your body responds when it's still waking up. Today, I'll share the 9 most overlooked shower mistakes that quietly increase stroke risk and could put your brain in danger without a single warning sign. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Hot showers first thing in the morning. For many people in their 60s and beyond, stepping into a hot shower first thing in the morning feels like a warm welcome to the day. It soothes stiff joints, clears the head, and helps ease into movement. But as someone who's worked with stroke patients for decades, I need to share a truth that often goes unnoticed until it's too late. That same comforting shower routine may be quietly putting your brain at serious risk. Here's what happens inside the body. When you leave the bed and walk directly into a hot shower, your blood vessels expand rapidly in response to the heat, but your body is still transitioning from rest to movement. Your heart is adjusting. Your brain is still waking up. This shift from lying down to standing causes a natural dip in blood pressure. When combined with the vessel dilation caused by hot water, it means less blood is reaching the brain during those early fragile minutes. For some, it causes slight dizziness. For older adults, especially those on blood pressure medication or with any degree of arterial narrowing, it can be enough to trigger something far more serious. That's how it unfolded for Mr. Robert Hayes, a 74-year-old retired school bus driver from Michigan. He lived a simple, steady life and took pride in his routine. Each morning, he skipped breakfast, went straight to his bathroom, and took a hot 12-minute shower. One morning, his wife found him seated in the shower, conscious but confused, one side of his face drooping slightly, his words jumbled. He hadn't fallen. He hadn't hit his head, but the scan revealed he'd experienced a mild stroke, and when we looked back, the cause was hidden in plain sight: heat, dehydration, and rapid changes in blood pressure before his brain had time to adjust. We often assume strokes are unpredictable and sudden, but many of them are set in motion by small habits repeated over months or years. A hot shower before the body is ready may feel harmless, even healthy, but for the aging brain and heart, it's a shock that builds quietly. The good news is that prevention doesn't require drastic change. It starts with how you begin your day. But while hot water can strain your blood vessels, what cold water can do to your heart may surprise you even more. Let's keep going. 2. Sudden exposure to cold water. As we get older, there's often this belief we hold on to that pushing ourselves a little, Testing our limits will keep us strong. Cold showers fall right into that mindset. They're often seen as a way to boost circulation, sharpen focus, and toughen the body. And while that may hold true for younger adults, the story changes dramatically past the age of 60. What seems invigorating can actually become a serious risk for the aging heart and brain. Here's what really happens when cold water hits your skin, especially first thing in the morning. Your blood vessels constrict in an instant, a natural reflex to conserve body heat. But for seniors, especially those with hardened arteries or hidden heart conditions, this sudden narrowing forces the heart to work much harder. The pressure rises fast. Blood flow becomes turbulent, and the chance of triggering an arrhythmia or forming a clot increases significantly. If that clot travels upward and finds a narrowed artery in the brain, it can block blood flow. And in that moment, a stroke isn't just a risk, it becomes a reality. I remember Mr. Eugene Carter, Sister Joe, a retired firefighter from Minnesota. He was active, alert, and determined to stay ahead of aging. He had read that a 30-second cold rinse at the end of a shower could enhance brain function, so he added it to his morning routine. For a while, he felt great. But one cold January morning, he stepped from a warm shower into a sudden icy rinse, and his chest tightened. Moments later, he collapsed in his bathroom. The scan confirmed a transient ischemic attack, a mini stroke caused by a brief clot. His heart rhythm had become unstable. He had no idea that the shock of cold water, combined with early morning pressure changes, had created a perfect storm. The hard truth is, the older heart can't tolerate the same extremes it once could. Sudden cold isn't just uncomfortable, it's a physical shock. It drives blood pressure up, throws off heart rhythm, and sets the stage for clot formation. If you enjoy cooler water, ease into it slowly, but avoid dramatic temperature swings, especially if you have a history of heart issues or dizziness. Now, here's something even more unexpected. Even if the water is warm and gentle, the time of day you step into the shower could still raise your stroke risk in ways most people never consider. Let's talk about that next. 3. Showering too early in the morning. There's a quiet risk that lives in the early hours of the day, a time many older adults rely on for structure, focus, and a sense of control. Waking up early, getting things done, staying on schedule, it feels like discipline. But what many people don't realize is that between 5:00 and 8:00 in the morning, the brain enters a state of increased vulnerability. And for those over 60, this window can be one of the most dangerous times to step into the shower. In the early morning, your body goes through a shift. Cortisol levels rise naturally to help you wake. Blood pressure climbs as the body transitions from rest to movement. For younger individuals, this internal shift usually goes unnoticed. But in aging adults, especially those with high blood pressure, heart conditions, or a history of stroke, these changes can become overwhelming. Add the heat and humidity of a shower, and the fact that most people are still dehydrated and haven't eaten, and it becomes a dangerous combination. Heat dilates the blood vessels in your skin, pulling blood away from your core and your brain. When this happens, while blood pressure is already spiking, the brain may receive too little oxygen at the very moment. It needs more If a vessel is already weakened or if there's plaque in the arteries, this creates the perfect environment for a clot to form, or worse, for a vessel to rupture. I remember Miss Elaine Whitaker, Basha San, a retired piano teacher from Ohio, every morning without fail. She was up by 6, in the shower by quarter after. She said it gave her peace, a sense of rhythm. But one morning, as she stepped out of the shower, her right side went limp. She couldn't speak, couldn't move. Her daughter found her minutes later. We later confirmed an ischemic stroke. The cause wasn't a fall. It wasn't her medication. It was timing combined with the effects of heat, hunger, and a brain that needed more time. Your body no longer rebounds like it used to. That's not weakness. It's reality. Wait 45 minutes before you shower. Drink water. Eat something small. These simple steps give your brain a better start to the day. But even timing isn't the only threat, because there's something else underfoot common in every bathroom that may be putting you at even greater risk. And we need to talk about it next. 4. Slippery floors and no grab bars. There's a quiet risk in nearly every American bathroom. It hides in plain sight. So familiar that most seniors never give it a second thought. It's the hard, wet surface underfoot, the slick tile, the smooth porcelain tub, the lack of nearby support when your balance shifts unexpectedly. For older adults, these aren't minor inconveniences. They're dangerous conditions that too often lead to serious, life-altering consequences. We often think of strokes as something that happens inside the brain, caused by age or blood pressure. But what many forget is that a fall, especially in the bathroom, can trigger a stroke too. A slip in the shower can lead to blunt trauma, rapid pressure changes, or dislodged blood clots. And when that happens in a body already managing hypertension or vascular disease, the risk skyrockets. I remember Mr. Harold Jensen, Basher R., a proud Korean War veteran from Nebraska. He lived alone, took care of his yard, made his own meals, and still fixed things around the house. He was strong-willed and independent. But one cold morning, as he stepped into his shower, his foot slid on the wet tile. There were no grab bars, no mats, nothing to catch his fall. He struck the side of his head on the tub. Though he stayed conscious, something was clearly wrong. He couldn't move his left arm. By the time emergency services arrived, over an hour had passed. Scans later revealed a stroke in the right side of his brain brought on by the trauma and a clot that had likely been stirred by the fall itself. He didn't fall because he was reckless. He fell because the space around him wasn't built for aging. Reflexes slow with age. Muscles weaken. Even medications can throw off your balance. And the worst part is, it's preventable. Grab bars, non-slip flooring, shower benches, and adequate lighting aren't luxuries. They're necessities. Installing them isn't giving in to aging. It's choosing to age with safety and dignity. But the threat isn't only on the floor. There's something even more dangerous filling the air around you, especially when that bathroom fills with steam. What happens when heat, humidity, and poor ventilation collide? Let's look at that next. 5. Poor ventilation, steamy dangers. Most people think of a warm, steamy shower as something healing, like a soft blanket around the body. easing tension, softening stiffness, helping to start the day on a gentle note. And for many older adults, that comfort becomes a daily ritual at a moment of calm before the rest of the day begins. But what most don't realize is that this soothing fog, the very steam that seems to bring relief, could be slowly draining your brain of its most vital resource, oxygen. When your bathroom lacks proper ventilation, that rising steam doesn't just sit in the air, it replaces what you need to breathe. Oxygen levels in the room drop, while moisture thickens the air, breathing becomes shallow. Your chest may not notice, but your brain does. And for older adults, especially those with weaker lungs or slower circulation, that shift can become dangerous quickly. If you live with COPD, heart failure, or even mild asthma, your body's ability to adjust to that low oxygen environment is diminished. What begins as fogged mirrors and heavy air becomes lightheadedness, brain fog, even short-term confusion. The real danger lies beneath the surface. Reduced oxygen flow to the brain in a body already dealing with stiff arteries or low-grade inflammation can create the ideal conditions for a stroke. Clot formation, vessel narrowing, or irregular heartbeat. These are the silent consequences of stepping into a hot, closed-off bathroom without airflow. I'll never forget Mrs. June Patterson, Tisha T., a retired music teacher from Indiana. She came to see me for symptoms that sounded like early memory loss, slurred speech, mental cloudiness, and disorientation, all happening in the mornings. Her tests were clear. Her scans were fine. The answer came when we discussed her morning routine. She told me how much she enjoyed long, steamy showers with no windows open. No ventilation. Just heat. It turned out she was unintentionally depriving her brain of oxygen. We made a few simple adjustments, opened the window, used a fan, and limited the shower to 10 minutes. Within a week, her symptoms were gone. The air you breathe matters, and so does what happens after you step out of that shower. Because even if your breathing improves, your brain faces another unexpected threat that shows up right after breakfast. Let's talk about that next. 6. Showering immediately after meals. For many older adults, stepping into the shower right after a meal feels like a good habit. You finished breakfast or lunch, cleaned up the dishes, and it seems natural to move on to your shower. But what's happening inside your body during those first few minutes after eating can make this simple routine far more dangerous than it seems, especially with age. After a meal, your body automatically diverts blood toward your digestive system to help break down food. It's a natural process known as postprandial blood redistribution. In younger individuals, the body adjusts easily. But in people over 60, where arteries are less flexible and the circulatory system isn't as responsive, this shift can leave the brain with less blood and oxygen. Now layer on a warm shower where the heat causes your skin's blood vessels to expand. That draws even more blood away from your core and your brain. Add the upright position and a warm, humid bathroom with poor air circulation. And suddenly, the environment becomes risky. You've created the perfect setting for a drop in blood pressure, reduced brain perfusion, and potentially a stroke. One of my patients, Mrs. Hattie Reynolds, Bosher, a retired Sunday school teacher from Alabama, lived by routine. Oatmeal and tea at 7:30. Shower by 8. One morning, just minutes after breakfast, she entered the shower as usual. Her husband heard a crash. He rushed in to find her collapsed, unresponsive on the bathroom floor. She was revived by paramedics. But at the hospital, tests revealed she had suffered a mild ischemic stroke brought on by a clot, likely triggered by the circulatory changes from her post-meal shower. Though she survived, she now walks with assistance and struggles with speech. Most people don't realize how vulnerable the body becomes after a meal. What feels like a simple step in a routine can be a tipping point for the aging system. That's why it's essential to wait at least 30 to 45 minutes before showering. Give your body time, sit, sip some water, allow digestion to work. You're not being cautious, you're being smart. But even when timing is perfect and habits are adjusted, there's another hidden risk. This one has nothing to do with food or temperature, but with how still you're standing and what happens to circulation when your legs don't move. Let's take a closer look. 7. Standing too long without support. At first glance, standing in the shower feels like the most normal thing in the world. For many older adults, it's a daily act of independence, a way to stay in control, keep clean, and preserve dignity. But as someone who's worked closely with seniors and seen what happens when the body's quiet warnings go unnoticed, I need to tell you something important. Standing still in a hot shower for too long, especially without support, can become a serious health risk, one that affects your circulation, your balance, and even your brain function. As we age, the cardiovascular system doesn't respond as quickly as it once did. The muscles in your legs, which help pump blood back to your heart and brain, begin to lose strength. When you stand still, particularly in warm water, blood pools in your lower limbs, that alone can lead to dizziness or lightheadedness. But in older adults, it can also cause a noticeable drop in blood pressure and reduce the flow of oxygen to the brain. That fuzzy feeling, the sudden loss of balance, the moment when everything feels a little off, that's not just age. That's a signal that something's wrong. More than that, when blood stagnates in the legs, even for just 10 minutes, it increases the risk of blood clots forming. And if one of those clots moves through your bloodstream and reaches the lungs, the heart, or the brain, the consequences can be life-altering: a stroke, a heart attack, a pulmonary embolism. Mr. Glenn Roberts, Bosher E., a retired rural letter carrier from Nebraska, was one of my patients. Every morning, he took a hot shower, standing for nearly 20 minutes with no seat, no support. It helped his joints, he said. But one day, he passed out. His wife found him slumped against the wall, confused and unable to speak clearly. He had suffered a mild stroke caused by a clot that had likely formed from extended standing and reduced blood flow in his legs. After his recovery, he switched to using a shower bench and a 5-minute timer. He hasn't had an episode since. His story is a reminder: sitting in the shower isn't weakness, it's wisdom. But even when you sit, even when you're careful, another silent danger remains, one that strikes when you bend or twist too fast, catching your brain completely off guard. Let's talk about that next. 8. Sudden changes in position. Most people go years without thinking twice about reaching for a towel, bending to pick up soap, or twisting to rinse their back in the shower. These small movements feel natural, almost automatic, ingrained from a lifetime of routine. But in the aging body, those same motions can quietly become dangerous. I've seen it happen far too often. A sudden bend, a quick turn, or lifting the arms overhead in a warm shower can trigger a cascade of internal changes that the body can no longer handle as it once did. As we grow older, the ability to regulate blood pressure in response to movement begins to fade. Stiffe arteries, slower nervous system signals, and medications all play a part. When you bend quickly or twist without support, especially in the heat of a steamy shower, your blood pressure can drop suddenly, and blood flow to the brain can become unstable. This is known as orthostatic hypotension. Add in dilated vessels from the warmth and poor ventilation, and your brain can be left momentarily starved of oxygen. What follows could be dizziness, a blackout, or even a collapse. And that's not all. When circulation becomes sluggish and turbulent during these positional shifts, blood clots can form more easily, especially in individuals already managing cardiovascular conditions. If that clot travels to the brain, even briefly, it can cause a transient ischemic attack or a stroke. Miss Gloria Bennett, Tisher Luke, a retired bookkeeper from New Jersey, is one such case I'll never forget. Living alone and proud of her independence, she was in the shower one morning when she bent down suddenly to grab her razor. The next moment she recalled was waking up on the floor, confused, her speech slurred. A clot had lodged in her brain during that motion, caused by poor blood flow and a sudden drop in pressure. She survived, but with lasting effects. Her right hand never fully recovered. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. In later years, slowing down, moving with intention, and setting up support in your shower space is not weakness, it's protection. And yet, even when you move slowly and safely, there's one more overlooked risk. It doesn't involve how you move at all. It's about what you take before you shower. Let's look at that next. 9. Showering after taking certain medications. It's one of the most familiar habits in the world. Take your morning medications, sip some water, and walk straight into the shower. It feels orderly, responsible, even comforting. But for older adults, this routine, done without a second thought, can carry risks that go far beyond a moment of lightheadedness. What many seniors don't realize is that certain medications, especially those for blood pressure, fluid retention, and heart rhythm, change the way your body handles stress and temperature when taken. Just before entering a warm, enclosed shower, they can create a storm your aging body isn't prepared to manage. Medications like diuretics, calcium channel blockers, and beta blockers are designed to ease the workload on the heart. They relax blood vessels, flush excess fluid, and lower pressure inside your arteries. But add the heat and humidity of a shower, where your skin vessels naturally dilate even more, and your blood pressure can drop too low, too fast. This means your brain may receive less oxygen right when it needs more. You begin to feel weak, confused, unsteady, and in a slippery shower. That's a dangerous place to be. I think of Mr. Ray Martinez. Tisha Joe, a retired welder from Texas. He was organized, sharp, and took excellent care of himself every morning. He took his medications around 6:30, had a light snack, and was in the shower within minutes. One day, shortly after lathering up, he began to feel faint. He tried to hold the wall but collapsed before he could call for help. His wife found him slumped near the drain. Conscious but unable to speak clearly, a scan later showed a clot had moved into his brain's frontal lobe, likely dislodged during a period of low blood pressure caused by the heat and the timing of his medication. He survived, but now needs help dressing and forming full sentences. These aren't rare stories. They're everyday routines gone quietly wrong. The simple fix is to give your body time 30 to 45 minutes after taking medication before entering the shower. Let your system adjust. Stay seated. Stay hydrated. That small pause could protect the very function that defines who you are. And now that you've heard all the hidden dangers, it's time we talk about what a truly safe shower routine for seniors looks like, from the timing to the setup to the temperature. Let's bring it all together. There comes a moment in life when everything you've known about your routines, your strength, and your body begins to shift. It doesn't happen in a single day. It shows up in the little things: a pause at the top of the stairs, a slower rise from bed, a breath that takes a second longer to catch. And while it's easy to write those changes off as just getting older, the truth is more urgent than that. These changes are signs. They're your body's way of asking for protection, for patience, for a new kind of wisdom. You don't lose your health in big dramatic moments. It slips away in small, repeated habits that once felt harmless: a shower taken too soon after medication, a bend that's just a little too quick, a moment of dizziness brushed aside. I've worked with too many older adults, strong, smart, good people whose lives changed not because of a major illness, but because of a routine that nobody ever warned them about. They stood too long on wet tile. They turned too fast. They didn't wait long enough after taking blood pressure medication, and they paid a price they never saw coming. But here's the truth. I want you to hold on to: these risks are not inevitable. They're preventable. And the power to protect yourself isn't in a hospital or a doctor's office. It's in your daily choices. It's in how you wake up, how you move, how you pause before you act. It's in recognizing that aging doesn't mean giving up. It means adapting with care. People like Mr. Dawson, who stood just a little too long, Miss Bennett, whose simple twist turned into a medical emergency, Mrs. Craig, who resisted using a shower chair until it was too late. None of them were reckless. They were simply doing what they had always done. But no one told them how the rules had changed. Now you know, and with that knowledge comes real power, not the kind that lifts heavy weights or runs up hills, but the kind that listens to your breath, your balance, your blood pressure, the kind that respects the years your body has carried you and chooses to carry it wisely now. Your strength is still there. It's in the gentle routines you create, the pauses you take, the safety you build into each day, These small choices are your medicine, and they matter because your life, your clarity, your independence are still worth protecting. One mindful morning at a time. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like and share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.